Welcome to Legends of Culture, a podcast where we get real stories from real leaders about how they have created world-class organizational cultures. I'm your host, Jared Oakes. I'm the Chief Culture Officer at a large law firm, Benish, and a lifelong student of what it takes to create teams that thrive. Together, we'll dive into candid conversations with founders, owners, and C-suite leaders whose organizations are all in on their people and whose people are all in for each other. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, or just curious about what makes great workplaces tick, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome to Legends of Culture. I'm Jared Oakes. I'm a lawyer, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a leader, and as it relates to our episodes here, I am a student of culture. I love organizational culture. I love studying it. It's a big part of my day life at work, and this whole podcast is around exploring leaders and people who are really amazing at developing corporate cultures that really drive connection, drive community, and drive success for their companies. And so for this episode, I'm coming back to my roots. I'm here in Pennsylvania with my best friend, Dr. Ryan Molli. Ryan Molli is a visionary in his field, and so I'm super excited to get to explore everything about his life and his practice. And here we go. So Ryan, welcome to Legends of Culture.
Jared, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on this. As I was saying kind of before we started, this is a little bit of a role reversal because I'm usually sitting in that chair, not necessarily in this studio setting, but hosting the podcast. So it's a little uncomfortable for me because I'm usually the one guiding the conversations, but I kind of like it. It's like a day off, but I just don't know what's coming.
That's right. Ryan does not know what's coming, but it's exciting. So Legends of Culture is all about telling stories. It's a storytelling mission. So are you ready to tell some stories today?
I'm ready to tell some stories.
Okay. So, and I want to start a little bit in reverse because often when I want to get to know you, I want to talk about your personal life. We're not going to go in depth at this stage on your career because we'll get into that. But I just want to tell the audience, like, you've got a lot of stuff going on. One of the things that's super cool is, like, you are a physician, you are an amazing surgeon, you have that part of your life, but you're so entrepreneurial. You do everything. I feel like every day I talk to you and you're going to say, oh, today I've got this business going. And it's pretty amazing. I'm jealous, in awe, and I don't know how you have the energy to do it. But so start off by telling us who you are as a business person.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, what I dedicated the majority of my life to was kind of my craft, my day job, which is an orthopedic surgeon. I specialize in adult reconstruction. For the lay people out there, that just means I do hip and knee replacements and hip and knee revision replacements for people. And that's what, my 9-to-5 job. And it's not 9 to 5. It's much earlier and it's not quite as late as that. Mm-hmm. But that's just, I guess, the title. But yes, I am a business owner. I am an entrepreneur. So I started my own private practice in 2018, Whole Health Orthopedic Institute. And quite frankly, you and I growing up together, and we were roommates in college and best friends since I can remember. I always joked because you were a business major in college and you would say these terms that really didn't make a lot of sense to me because my brain wasn't wired that way.
Assets
and liabilities and things like that. And I was like, why is that important? I'm never going to need to know that. And, 20, 30 some years later, those are extremely important terms to me. And I have learned to enjoy the business aspect of my job and my career and my life as much as the orthopedic surgery, because it's an integral part of the practice and the culture that I've created at the practice. But there's all these other little side shoot things that I do. I have a pretty big passion for social media and in particular LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. I'm not on any other social media. I don't do any Facebook. I don't do any Instagram, although
Ryan doesn't get any of my freaking jokes because
I signed up for Instagram. Okay. So now you can send me that stuff and I can actually watch it. But yeah, so LinkedIn and just being a passion-driven guy there, because I'm very, very passionate about private practice, which I think is really kind of gone by the wayside. And what I've seen is this pendulum has swung so far from a physician standpoint of hospital employment because it's easier. Young physicians and even older physicians get sucked into that as their promise is, it's going to be easy. You just focus on medicine. Don't worry about the business side of things. We'll do that.
Yeah.
So really trying to swing that pendulum back towards private practice. That's a passion of mine. I host 2 podcasts, which I really, really enjoy. Just getting to know people, getting to hear people's success stories. Mm-hmm. And then that's the Hey Sawbones version. But then the red carpet is more of the what's the healthcare crisis that we're in and how can we help to provide solutions for that. And then there's just the other things that I love doing, which is coaching our three boys with whatever they're playing at that particular point.
Yeah.
Just finished up our basketball season and just trying to kind of inspire, like you, leaders and people that want to be thought-provoking.
So, all right, we've heard a little bit about your career, what you do. You just mentioned a little bit of basketball. So I want to know about your upbringing. So we both came up in a very hardworking rural area, and I'm proud of that. I know you're proud of that. But tell us about our upbringing, I guess, and then let's talk about that.
Yeah, so grew up in Townville, Pennsylvania, which is where we're sitting right now. We're in the middle of a forest in a treehouse. But yeah, so both of our families were blue-collar families. My father taught at Meadville Junior High for 31 years as a math and computer teacher. My mother was a beautician, had a beauty shop right out of our house, which is, I can see it right over there through the woods. My parents built that house. We had a small beef hobby farm that we raised at the max, maybe 18 to 20 head of beef cows per year. We had chickens, we had pigs, we had a sheep, we had horses at one point. We also grew up in an era where we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all these distractions of social media. I didn't have cable television growing up. I didn't have video games growing up. But it provided me with what I think was a very important foundation of working my butt off to attain goals that I wanted to have. And there weren't distractions like there are for children these days. And you grew up in a very similar environment. We both went to the same church. I think volunteerism was one of the biggest qualities that my parents to this day have taught me and imparted upon me. I've never met an individual that has volunteered more of his time and efforts than my father. He still continues to do it, whether it was Town of Little Home Days, whether it was at the church, just his time and effort. And that came as a sacrifice, though, because there were times that maybe I wanted to go play basketball or throw a ball with my dad, and he wasn't there to do those things. It doesn't mean that he wasn't a good dad, because he was an amazing dad. But his influence on me was more about me watching the things that he did that helped to provide success for him and for the community, that it wasn't as much like, hey, let's just go have fun. It was very disciplined, very strict, but at the same time, it gave me this drive that was just like failure was not an option.
I think your dad probably also would rather have thrown the ball with you, right?
Probably.
In that moment, right? And when he decided, I'm committed to this whatever it was at the time that I'm helping out, you're learning by watching him, right? That's like the number one way your kids can learn, right? Is by seeing how you act in the community, and the fact that your dad gave of himself and sacrificed his own personal maybe enjoyment or fun to do that is probably more influential on you than him if he would have told you, we need to do this, you need to do this because it's important. You see how he does it, and that's what influences you. For
sure. And I don't want to leave my mom off that list too, because she was there, she was the cheerleader, she was the one at home making sure that we had meals and getting us to, whether it was a sporting event or maybe a camp in the summer. But at the same time, she volunteered a ton, both at the church and throughout the community.
We also learned a lot from sports. We both played sports a lot. That was a big part of our life. I mean, really, maybe other than church, the biggest part of our life.
Right.
And so, and I'm a student of like leadership that you learn from sports. So I want to hear from you, and you're a coach. I want to hear from you about what did sports mean to you growing up? It was big in your family. What did it mean to your family? How did that help you develop leadership? And what lessons do you take and do you implement today from coaching or from sport?
I never really was an individual sport kind of guy. I mean, I like to play golf now, but I'm not that good at it. I was always a team sport guy, whether it was basketball, whether it was volleyball. I did play a little bit of baseball growing up, but I was always going to my sister's sporting events because I was the youngest. And throughout the summers, I was doing a ton of camps, mainly basketball. That was my passion growing up. I wanted to be an NBA basketball player. And I would be remiss if I did not mention my childhood idol, Michael Jordan, right? He's the GOAT. To this day, I give him, never met him, I probably never will, a lot of credit for like my determination and failure's not an option mentality, because that's who he was. He was the ultimate workhorse, right? People think, yeah, Michael Jordan was a great athlete that was very blessed with athletic ability, but what separated him from his competition and even his teammates was his work ethic. He was the guy that was there, just like Kobe Bryant.
For sure.
Was there the beginning. He opened the gym up. He closed the gym down. He was doing things when no one else was watching. And that's one thing that I try to teach the three of our boys is it's great to show up and play good in the game. It's great to show up and play great in practice, but you need to be doing the time. You need to be doing that 100 push-ups at night. So sports to me was an opportunity to obviously be active, to be physically healthy, but it really promoted good, healthy competition. The big thing for me was the team aspect of it, right? Because we all wanted to play good individually. But to me, the beautiful thing about sports and what led me to have the most joys, particularly with coaching, is when I'm coaching a basketball team and I can see these players and they start to play as a unit. And when I got to see that this past season with our sixth graders, it took a while. It wasn't until probably the second half of the season where I was like, guys, we have the talent to do this, but we got to take it to that next level of teamwork, relying on your teammates as opposed to just trying to do one-on-one stuff. So the power of teamwork, there's quotes that say we can go fast by ourselves, but we can go far and fast when we're doing things together with one another.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about culture. So when you think of culture organizationally, as you create whole health, what does culture mean to you? Define culture for me.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be something that's very personal. Your culture with what you do, or my culture with what I do, or my business, it's not synonymous with one another, right? So it needs to be something that you're passionate about. It needs to be something that means something deeply to you. And so for me, creating whole health, it was like, all right, what is our mission? What is our culture that's going to support that mission? Because they have to be aligned. And if they're not aligned, it's not going to feel real. It's not going to feel genuine. It's not going to feel authentic. And it's probably not going to be successful. So culture is kind of that inherent feeling, that inherent energy that you have within an organization that essentially leads you. It's your compass to attaining your goal, right? To me, when I speak of the mission statement of who we are, it needs to well up some emotions within me.
Right.
And if it doesn't, it's probably not authentic enough.
Authenticity is the magic word, right?
I honestly think that whether it's me watching our three boys get to different life points, whether it's me watching our team at Whole Health get to that next level, whether it's myself watching patients that are reflecting upon their experience of coming through the program or the protocols and expressing it worked, and you're touching lives. And it's just like, wow, it feels good.
It is. It's awesome. So you talked about culture a little bit, but I think in order for us to really understand what you've created at Whole Health, you've led a life where you graduate from med school, you do residency, you do your fellowship, then you head straight to work for the hospital, which is what most people do, right?
Yeah.
You've been in a hospital. You've been in private practice as a junior partner, might not have had the full autonomy you were looking for. And then you've had your own thing.
Yeah. So the journey was long, right? So it's, you graduate high school, 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of med school, 5 years of orthopedic surgery residency. I then did a 1-year fellowship. So that's 14 years beyond high school before you have your real job. So I was 32 when I had my first real job. I didn't take any time off and I went straight through. Right out, I joined a private practice in Michigan that had 3 senior partners, and they were the only partners. And I was an employed, but private practice. Right after that, I did a year with them. I was then offered 3 times what I was making that year to join a hospital. But I was able to still stay in the same practice. So the hospital paid that practice rent for me to use that space. The hospital paid them for my expenses, like for medical assistance, for me to use the x-ray there. And it was in the same building, so I sat at the same desk. It didn't feel much different other than, hey, I'm making way more money. But I then had to go and I had to sit down with hospital administrators that were telling me that I was losing them money. I wasn't making them enough and this and that, which I knew were all lies because of the corruptness of the healthcare system. So I fulfilled my 2-year contract. They then offered me another raise at the end of that to come on a third term. I said, no way. So I went back to my original salary, took a massive pay cut, went back into private practice, became a partner at that practice, junior partner.
This is in Michigan, right?
All in Michigan. Yep. So did that. And then was not even in that partnership for a year, and an opportunity of a lifetime presented itself. So my wife and I, we debated for a while, but long story short, we decided to move back to Pennsylvania, became not a partner, but I became an employee of a private practice again. So it was like going back to my original environment with 3 senior partners, but we were not aligned at all. There was very big discord with where they were trying to go, their mission, and where I was trying to go. And at that point, I had 4 years under my belt, so I wasn't a newbie.
Yeah. How long did it take you to find out that you were disaligned?
A couple weeks. It was pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew I was very, very entrepreneurial at that point. I knew I'd done the hospital employment thing. I knew where healthcare was heading, and I was like, hey, we need to open a surgery center. It was just very driven.
Yeah.
And they were like, nope. We've done this way for our entire careers. Even though it's not that great, we're going to continue doing this because it's just comfortable. And I was like, ugh, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
So fulfilled my 2-year contract there. And then I said, you know what, guys, with all due respect, I need to do something differently. And at that point, it was kind of like this calling. And I said, I need to figure out what's going to give me the most amount of joy, which really came down to one thing. It was autonomy and independence. And I was practicing really good medicine, and they were very good physicians, very good surgeons, but our business and our missions were different. And so I decided to start my own thing, which no one does. I honestly, I don't know of any other physicians that they join other private practices, but they don't just start private practices.
Yeah.
I was a little bit naive. I was like, I could just do this. And maybe that was the best thing because I didn't realize the hurdles.
Yeah.
Because if I had, I probably would have gotten a little bit of paralysis by analysis and been overwhelmed and said, no, this is going to be too difficult.
It's funny you say that because, I mean, the majority of people would have got stuck in the paralysis by analysis stage. I feel like one of your great strengths is you just say, F it, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that you do it without thought. You
No.
plan it out. But most people would be too scared. They'd be like, it's not worth it. I'll just stay where I'm at.
Yeah. And honestly, that never once crossed my mind because it came back down to failure is not an option. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it was.
Yeah.
But I was just like so committed. I was like, I don't care what happens. I'm going to make this work.
Yeah.
And
How'd you feel the day before you told them, or the day you were going to tell them? Were you like, okay, I'm resolved on doing this. I'm confident in it. I know it's going to be somewhat painful to go through that process. Or did you fret over it a lot?
No. The only thing, I had to have my wife proofread the letter that I sent them. And it was a respectful letter. It was thank you for the time.
Right.
But once I sent it, it was just the most liberating experience that I had had. It was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. And then the very next day, I'm like, oh shit, sorry for swearing, but I was like, I got to do this. I got to figure this out.
We can be PG-13. Shit's okay, I think.
But so then it just led to this, like, okay, these are challenges. And I tell my boys this all the time: where there's a problem, there's a solution. So I just started knocking those things out. And I was like, all right, I got to form a corporation. So I started an LLC. Later to find out that I couldn't form an LLC, I needed to be a PLLC. You would know way more about that than I did. But I knocked one domino down, then the next domino started to fall. Kind of knew that the culture thing, which is what this whole thing is about, right? I needed to create what was my mission, what was my mantra, what was going to make us different than every other orthopedic practice. And I mean, long story short, that's kind of that career thing.
Yeah.
That arc.
That's awesome. I think that it's very admirable, the fact that you were able to do that. Now let's give a little origin story on whole health itself.
I think the concept of whole health is pretty, I won't say unique, but I can't take credit for that. That was you and I, right? This was 2013, 2014. We were kind of both having this moment, a career crossroads, I would say, where we both were successful independently with what we were doing, but we both were kind of like, gosh, there's got to be more to this, right? So we had this, and we were talking about just health and wellness in this country.
Yeah.
And the healthcare crisis of chronic disease and children. We were having children at this point too. So there was that personal side of things. And we have to be able to offer more for me than just putting metal and plastic in people's hips and knees, and you than closing big real estate deals, right? There was more that God put us on this planet to do than just that.
Right.
And so we came up with this concept of a wellness community. But it was essentially a two-arm approach where Jared was the real estate side of things and I was the medical side of things. It was going to have primary care, every branch of medicine that you could think of. But we had farm to table stuff. There was early education, not like a full
Right.
primary, secondary education, but more like preschool type stuff. We had family farm plots. We had that little downtown city district right on the river that we were going to have 3-story brownstones, like small businesses, cafes on the first floor, maybe some law offices and things like that.
I have a feeling that whole health communities might still happen someday.
I would love for that to happen.
It needs to happen.
We pushed the pause button. And for me, it was about 2.5 years. And then when I had this awakening of I need to do my own thing, I came to you and I said, are you okay if I use that name and the logo that we had created, but for a smaller vision that I had, which was Whole Health at the time, Joint Replacement Institute, which then became Orthopedic Institute. And to this day, I practice as an orthopedic surgeon, but my practice is a lot more than putting hips and knees in people. It's changing lives, looking at wellness as a whole. So we're looking at chronic disease, whether it's diabetes, smokers, malnourished people, and trying to help these people become healthier. Yes, I can put a hip and knee in you and you can feel better, but if you still carry around 50 extra pounds of weight, or you still suffer from uncontrolled diabetes, or you're still smoking, or whatever it may be, what impact am I really making on changing your life?
Right. Yeah. Let's get into the organization now. So I talk a lot about culture. I serve as the chief culture officer of my firm. I have this podcast. I study companies, and I find that originally I thought this might just be like a law firm thing. And then I was like, well, it's broader than that. Maybe it's a professional services thing. And I actually think it translates to almost everybody. And so when I described the ultimate culture of a company, there's 3 common denominators, in my opinion. One is a culture. And when I say culture in this context, I mean it's interwoven into the fabric of who you are. It's not that you have some people who are blowing it out of the water in some aspects and other people who are not. It's like everybody's bought in. Everybody's the fabric of what you are. And so when I say, I think there's a culture of excellence, that you do everything at the very highest level, being ultimately committed to providing the very highest level of quality and excellence, to me, it's step 1. Step 2 is if you're in the business that serves other people, which almost everybody is, right? If you have a business, you have to have revenue. The revenue comes from something. You might be selling something. You might be, getting patients. I might be getting clients.
But you're still selling something.
Exactly. You're selling something. And so to me, client experience is imperative. That is the real differentiator. As between excellence and client experience, excellence is sometimes hard to distinguish because if you're at the highest level, your peers, someone's talking to Ryan or someone's talking to whoever the other best orthopedic surgeon is, they would probably be steps below Ryan. But the excellence thing, someone could claim, I'm really good at this. But the client experience thing, you can really differentiate. If in what you do, and I know you're a big fan of this and you study this, unreasonable hospitality, things like that, creating the magic of Disney, those things are real. And that's what I mean at my firm, and when I try to talk to the people in my real estate group, and like, this is what we do. This is how we take little clients, make them massive clients, is by killing them with client service and doing a great job for them at every single step of the way. So those are 2 of the most important things. But they don't feel like culture in the sense of we think of culture as like the touchy-feely, the connection. So the third piece of it, which most in law firm world, most people don't do this well, is I call it connection. It's the glue that holds us together. It's how do we treat one another? How do we create an environment that fosters growth and we're buying into the careers of our employees? How do we make people feel trusted? How do we make people feel supported? And how do we interact with one another? And so that's the connection, what I call the connection piece. But if you only have 2 of those 3 things, you could be a successful company, but you can't be operating.
They get you in the Hall of Fame for baseball,
right? Right. But in the world of the truly amazing organizations, that's the secret sauce, is all 3 of those things combined. And so that's what I work for and try to get our company to be involved in. But I think you do too. I know your philosophy is on a client experience, but tell us, does that resonate with you? And then I want to hear about what you actually do day to day to create your team at Whole Health and things like that.
For me, clinically, I'm reading all the time. I'm going to conferences all the time. I'm never going to be stagnant. And I tell my staff all the time. I tell my team all the time. I tell myself all the time and my patients, if I'm doing what I'm doing right now the same way that I'm doing it in 5 years, I'm doing something wrong, right? I love adapting. Change is very uncomfortable for a lot of people. We have to adapt to it. Even if you're great at something, I'm not saying Hershey's, change your ingredients for how you make milk chocolate, right? But you can make a change in how you wrap it or present it or put a little flair here and there. And maybe there's a way that you can do it healthier that tastes the same, but doesn't have as many detrimental health effects to it. So for me, I'm constantly looking for a way that I can do an operation, whether it's a hip or knee replacement on people, that's going to be less traumatic. Whether it's a year and a half ago, I learned how to do knee replacements without cutting any muscles or tendons. Why it took me so long to do that, I don't know, quite frankly. I was doing that for almost 15 years with hips and knees. Maybe it was because I was just comfortable in doing it. I was like, it's going to be hard to learn that.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve. It's going to be steep. And it wasn't that steep at all. But you have to constantly push yourself to be better than you were, whether it's that little 1% thing, get 1% better every day at what you do.
Yeah. If we were all to just do little things a little bit better, those incremental changes add up to the change we really need to make. It's not these big, massive things we need to do differently. Of all the work you do, you changed one technique, right? But that might have been a material change to how you do knees.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're overhauling your entire practice. It's like
No.
I'm constantly looking for a way to get a little bit better, right?
It needs to be
And like
manageable too,
Yeah.
because if you make too many changes, and especially big changes all at once, it's going to throw your team off.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to throw yourself off too. I feel like 2025 is a really, really big year for whole health. We're making some big changes, but we're doing them in a domino approach. So this domino needs to fall before we go to the next project. We have a lot of really, really cool things on the agenda, and my goal list for this year.
Yeah.
And we're just going one by one. And I feel like if you stack too many dominoes at once and you don't knock any over,
Yeah.
you get frustrated and then you get complacent. So got to build momentum too. And if you don't get that first success, the second success never happens.
Right.
What was the second thing?
The second thing is client experience.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite one.
Yeah.
So Walt Disney is probably, if there's one individual culturally that I feel like I identify most with my practice, whole health, it is Walt Disney. And what Walt was able to do, he was a dreamer. He was extremely, extremely creative. And he made every single person to this day, when they walk through Walt Disney World or Disneyland, feel extremely special. Like that place was built, created just for them. Magical, right? Walt gives me the chills when I think about it, because it was shot down by so many people. And they were like, oh, Walt, that's never attainable.
Yeah.
You can't ever do this. Your thinking is too big. Your dreams are too big. And for me, it's just like, if it's not big, it's not worth it.
That is you in a nutshell.
Go
Right?
big or
You're,
go
you're
home.
like, yeah, like screw that. You have big dreams, and I love that.
Yeah.
And-
And I love doubters,
Yeah.
right? You want to pour diesel fuel, gas, kerosene on the fire. I'm going to do it. But if you say I'm not going to be able to do it,
yeah.
look out. So Walt created that magical environment, and that's what I tried to create. And I think I have successfully created at Whole Health, was just like every patient feels very special when they walk in. I needed it to feel warm. I needed it to feel cozy. I needed it to feel different. I needed it to feel like, holy cow, this is a doctor's office. And it didn't stop with the physical structure.
Right.
It has to be the people that are there, right? The face that's at the front desk when you walk in needs to be warm, welcoming, inviting. You mentioned unreasonable hospitality, but you know, it's just those little things, and things that we've incorporated from that are simple things. One was every new patient, when they come in, they are greeted by name. And they're new patients, they've probably never been there. They take a pause. They're like, did they just say my name? How do they know that I'm John Smith?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Right?
Those little
It's just those little small details. And so just that feel that you have as a patient or as a customer at Disney needs to be omnipotent. It needs to be something that you walk away and you say to your neighbor, your aunt, your uncle, your spouse, you're crazy if you go anywhere else to have your hip or knee done by anyone else other than Whole Health.
Yeah. You're hitting on a point that goes to something that's really, really important for me, is that it's challenging to scale that. And as you grow and as you need more employees, to have uniform buy-in from your employees and a uniform experience, I find that to be difficult. Even at a firm that I feel is pretty uniformly excellent, I still have varying degrees of comfort with, if I were to hand something off to another group, for example, are they going to care as much about our client that I manage that as I would if I were doing it myself? And you have a little bit more control over your universe, right? But how do you get your employees to buy into that?
So, yeah, that's a tough question, Jared. Quite honestly, when I first started at Whole Health, I was trying to make the square peg fit into the round hole. And I tried to think that everybody could adapt to the culture that I had created at Whole Health. And It just maybe would take some time. And the last thing you want to do is have to let somebody go. And you feel like that's a failure if somebody doesn't work out. So I put a lot of time and energy and effort, and I took it very personally. If someone wasn't quite there and we were struggling and maybe we were butting heads and it felt like they were trying to go this way and I was like, no, we're going this way. And I lost a lot of sleep over that too. Just within the past year or so, I've started to realize that it's just not right for everybody. It doesn't mean that I'm right, they're wrong, but certain people, maybe their mentalities or their personalities or their culture just isn't aligned with what I've created or what my vision is or what my goals are. So the way that I get around it, and maybe it's a little easier because I have 30 employees and not 3,000 employees or whatever the scale is with whatever company you're talking about, which makes Disney World even much more impressive to me that they can get all those people.
Oh, it's insane. They have 75,000 in Orlando.
What are they doing? Is it just like they're pumping something into the water there? You're going to do this on stage and this behind stage or backstage. But for me, I have a very low threshold of just letting people go.
Yeah.
I don't like to do it, but literally it just happened. We had a provider recently that decided to leave. And quite frankly, I said, that's okay. If you don't want to be here, I don't want you to be here because you're not aligned with what we're doing. And quite frankly, it wasn't surprising to me. I almost felt like we were going to have to let this person go several months back. And it tends to play itself out. So I don't take things nearly as personally as I used to.
Yeah.
And
have you changed? I'm not a believer that every generation is lazy below you, right? I think that's common. I think that Gen Z is different. What drives them is different. What's important to them is different. But to me, this is the generation where I feel like you really have to like meet them where they're at and then figure out how do you help them buy into your mission? Because you have a very defined mission and it's an important mission. And if you don't buy into it, it's not going to work. I like the fact that you've realized it's okay, right? That not everybody has to fit with what you're doing.
Yeah, no
because
hard
it just makes it
feelings.
easier. But at the same time, you also don't want to be churning through lots of employees to the extent you can, because that's just bad for culture also. How do you inspire your employees? How do you get them to buy into what you're doing? So this is now about the connection piece. So what do you do personally to create that connection with them?
I think acknowledgement is key, right? So if someone's doing a really, really good job of walking the walk and talking the talk, like there's a very young employee. I don't even know what her generational thing was. She's not a millennial. She would probably be a
Gen Z.
Yeah. But if I could put whole health, she is it. I'm like, is this an act? It almost seems too good to be true. So it's like very, very warm natured, bubbly, but not in that fake type of way.
Right.
It almost seems too good to be true. And almost like she never has a bad day. She comes in, she is very friendly to staff, to employees. When I vet these people, and when I first started, I was part of every single interview. And I had to take a step back. I needed to start to empower certain people at the practice to say, listen, there's not enough time in the day. And quite frankly, I trust you guys. Unless they are a provider, I generally don't interview them. I trust them to bring on the people that embody the culture.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work out, right? As we talked about. But I think also providing an environment that maybe if you don't perfectly align with the culture right out of the gates, it's not like, okay, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hired a life coach for the practice a couple years ago. And
This is one of my favorite things, by the way. I didn't want to interrupt you, but like just for the audience, if you weren't paying attention or if you're fading, pay attention because this is unique. And I wish that I had the resources to do this. It's just like my scale's too big to do it. But tell us about this.
You know, I was struggling, found people that weren't walking the line, doing what I wanted. And I was like, where are we going wrong here? And I can't be everything to everybody. And I can't give these motivational speeches to everybody, but I need someone that understands my culture, understands my energy, understands my passions, and can lead the leaders. So I needed to create a leadership group, which I didn't have before.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that she encouraged me to do, which was to create this leadership team. And I identified about 5 or 6 people. You don't want to make it too big, right? Or you have too many cooks in the kitchen. But I identified 5 or 6 people that came in from different disciplines of the practice to form this leadership team. And they were the ones that would check in with the staff throughout the week, do these little check-in sessions. But we had a common theme. And each week they would meet and I would come together to these meetings maybe once a quarter. And Allison would guide them because that's what she does. She's a life coach. And it was unbelievable unbelievable what she was able to do with our practice and with our team, right? When the leadership team first started, a couple of people would talk, but they were the more outspoken people. And then other people would be very quiet, sitting back. And she would do individual sessions with them. She would do the group session with them. And then if there were any other employees that were struggling in any way, she would pull them aside and offer her services, not free of charge because I was paying.
Right.
I mean, it's an investment. But she would meet with them where they were at and try to figure out, what can we do? What are your needs here personally? Because a lot of times people bring their personal problems into work with
For sure.
And how can she support that, but also support the mission and the culture at Whole Health?
Yeah.
And when we started to do that, it really kind of, I hate to say, weed out those people that were just never going to adopt the culture, but it did.
Yeah.
And those people that were the borderliner people that were like sink or swim, she was able to bring those people forth and to really help them to become leaders within the practice. And instead of saying, sorry, you're not Whole Health material, it's not, again, that they're bad. It's just maybe their cultures weren't aligned. But she was able to rescue them and help them to develop into things that they didn't think that they could be and things that I didn't think that they could be either. And so I don't know where our practice would be without her. She's helped me personally, but she's helped our practice immensely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, but well worth it.
Well, I mean, the ROI on, I don't know if you've ever studied this, there's like the spectrum of engagement of your employees, right? And this is any company, no matter how big, no matter how small. And statistically, you have 20% of the people who crush it every year, all the time, 100% of the time, right? And they're really committed to your mission typically. Then you have maybe 50 to 60% in the middle who are, they'll do their jobs, they're pretty good, they're not disaligned. There's probably a marginal, some of those people might be slightly disengaged or just like going through the motions. Then you got the people at the bottom who are the detractors.
Yeah.
And if you can identify those people and weed them out, hopefully it happens naturally and it's not disruptive for your culture. But what you're really doing is you're taking that big middle piece, and most people don't realize a lot of profit. I mean, not to say that you're doing this just for profit, because it's also it's the right thing to do, but there's also
profit doesn't
ROI
just
on
mean
it,
money
right?
either,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You're just sort of like the success, right? Let's think of it that way. But if you can get those people to be more bought in, more engaged, and a lot of that's what you do. You're showing them, I'm buying into your career, and literally you're buying into their career. You're paying for this service, but it's evidence to them that you care and that you're helping, and you want them to be their best possible selves. And when that happens, this is why I'm so passionate about culture, because this is what happens. This is how you can buy an employer by doing the right thing for your employees and buying into them. It creates massive success. And I think that's where you're at. You are the face of what you do, right? You are the GOAT of orthopedic surgery. But in order to do that, in order to have tons and tons of referrals from your existing patients, they have to feel the love every step of the way, from the intake to the billing, right? From the very beginning to the very end.
From one
right?
person, that's a reflection of me.
Exactly, right? So it seems like, oh man, that's really expensive. It's a no-brainer what you did. It's really great. So
I just want to add one thing there, because some of these people, when we offer, Allison will say, hey, I'd be willing to talk to you. Maybe they're not ready to meet with her or talk with her right then. But the fact that they are offered that, just that simple thing is like, Dr. Molli cares enough that he has employed somebody, paid somebody, a consultant to come in here to help us. Even though I'm not willing or ready to talk to this person right now, but they're there if I need them.
Yeah.
I feel like that in and of itself helps to build trust, helps to build camaraderie and embrace the culture that we've tried to create at Whole Health.
Yeah. We're almost out of time. I want to ask a few questions.
I want to ask you a couple questions.
Okay, you ask me what. Okay, let's ask you some questions.
So what was your passion for creating this podcast based upon culture?
That's a good question. I've been working on culture of my firm for the last probably 2.5 years now. And I mean, I've always been working on the culture because I'm the vice chair of the real estate group. And we have maybe 60 lawyers in real estate. And so that's a decent size practice. But a lot of what I do to work with their employees to make them be the best they can be is like, that's what I would get the most satisfaction out of. I get more satisfaction out of helping people become excellent lawyers and succeed than I get out of actually practicing law myself. I still like practicing law. Like you like doing what you do. I like to close big deals. I like to advise clients and help them through problems. But I get more out of that aspect, the organizational aspect of what we do. And so when we created the culture initiative at Benish, gave me a massive boost of a reinvigoration of your career, right? And most of what I did for the first couple of years was really internally focused. I interviewed every lawyer in our firm. That took 14 months. There's 440 lawyers or something like that. But I learned a lot through that process. And I learned about what is good about culture, what is tough about culture, how does culture change as you grow, how hard is it to scale culture. And so I just started to really study it as part of that role. And then I started to look at what other people are doing. And this is where the podcast really started to come up, was I wanted to understand who gets this really right. And if they do get it really right, what does it mean for their success? And what does it mean for their organizations? And I thought this would be a cool way to highlight it. In fact, actually, the inspiration for this podcast came from, this is a long time ago now, me being the first guest on your podcast, because I really enjoyed that experience, us talking. I love interviewing people, I love getting to know them, and love learning from people. So this is a cool outlet for me. So that was the genesis of it.
And was this your idea? Because I think your culture role at your practice was something that was probably, I don't know if it was something you suggested, but did your partners be like, dude, that Jared Oaks is really good with people? And that's my story I'm making up about that, is they saw kind of like your superpower or one of your superpowers.
I think people view that as my biggest strength, is my interaction with people, my emotional
you bring
intelligence,
the most out of,
and like
the best out of people. To me.
I hope so. I think that's what I try to do. And I think that real estate was known as having the best culture in the firm. I can't attribute all that to me. There are other people who are really important, but my passion for it is so evident, right? I think that might have been what caught people's attention. And so when I first started talking to our managing partner about the fact that we should think about this, because we're also a little bit of a unique law firm. We have grown astronomically. So I've been at Benesch for almost like 9 years now, a little over 9 years. And in 2015, when I joined, there were like 140 lawyers. Now there's 440 lawyers, right? Wow. So the number of lawyers and the number of staff that support that has grown a lot as well. And we don't grow by we don't buy other law firms or acquire other law firms. We grow all organically by hiring individual, really excellent lawyers. It's allowed us to pick the right people. So we're really intentional about who we hire. But
that's funny that you guys have grown so rapidly with not acquiring other practices, right? Because that would be an easy way to double your practice size.
Exactly. And lots of firms do that. I mean, I would say we are in the very, very tiny minority of people who have grown as much as we have, size-wise. I don't know of another firm who's done it all through organic hiring.
You ever thought about writing a book about something like this?
I would like to write a book. There's two parts of it. I think there's the content part. How do you create the best culture? And then there's another piece that I'm actually learning through the podcast and through studying of lessons learned from the legends of culture, right? And that, I think, would be compelling, because that's not just me telling people this is what you should do. I'm learning from the best. That's why I love being able to learn from you, learning from the other guests that we have on our podcast. And so the combination of these stories, I think, will maybe culminate in a book someday. I think about, what have I seen? What do I learn from this? There's too much good content for me to just keep to myself. So yeah, there might be a book. All right, lightning round time. These are short questions. Who's your GOAT of leadership? This could be sports leaders. This could be business leaders.
Phil Jackson. He had the ability to take multiple personalities from your absolute GOAT superstars, Michael Jordan's, your role players, and Dennis Rodman, Steve Kerr's, John Paxson's, Bill Cartwright's, your wannabe superstars, but aren't quite there in their Scottie Pippens. Having them all come together. Then we're just talking about one team, but he did the same thing with the Lakers, with Kobe, with Shaq, two mega superstars. How do we coexist, right? And he found this Zen-like ability to meld those personalities, understand each other, strengths, weaknesses, so that the team could collaboratively work together and just kick ass.
All right. Last thing, if you could give one piece of advice for building a great culture, what would you say?
I would say just don't compromise, right? I feel like a lot of times people will have that dream, have that vision, but they'll be like, it's too big, it's too off the charts, it's too this far to the left or this far to the right. Is be authentic, be genuine, be true to yourself, even if it's difficult, right? Because a lot of people that I talk to, when I explained whole health and what I was trying to do, they'd be like, that's not real. That's kind of fantasy land. You're wasting your money on building this beautiful office. You're wasting your time and energy on building this culture around this belief system of this and that. If that's what you really believe and you're super passionate about it, don't compromise. Go hell or high water. To me, it was like, I'm going to do this. And if you truly believe it, and I know that sounds a little fantasy land, but if you truly believe it in your heart, and it's one of those things that I think can be revolutionary don't compromise.
I love that. I love that advice. Ryan, thank you so much. Before we go, I thought drink-wise, we've been mostly drinking coffee, but we're in Western Pennsylvania, which is pretty mullet-friendly territory. So we've got the business in the front with the coffee and the party in the back, which is the rye whiskey. So we will
whistle pig.
Now that we're done, we'll have a little sip.
Salud.
So, cheers.
Now that we're done, we've been drinking the whole time. What are you talking about?
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Legends of Culture. If you found today's conversation inspiring or insightful, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a colleague or friend. And if you're as passionate about culture as I am, I'd love to connect. Please like and subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, or reach out on LinkedIn. Together, let's learn from the legends and keep building organizations where people thrive. Until next time, I'm Jared Oakes. Keep leading with purpose and investing in your team.